Hey everybody, this is Rebel Builder and I have another TIE Fighter MOC. This time it is Darth Vader's TIE Advanced X1. Now this was a MOC that was requested by quite a few people, and really I didn't get too excited about the idea at first. But then I started looking at some images of the ship and found some blueprints of it and compared those to the recent Lego set that we saw, and thought there were some things that I could do to make it a little more screen accurate, a little more accurate to what we've seen in the movie, and this is what I came up with. Honestly, I thought this would be an easier build than it was. I built quite a few TIE fighters. I generally start with the same TIE fighter cockpit, but each one is its own challenge, and this one required much more new builds, new techniques, new construction than I anticipated. But the first thing I wanted to do is come up with the accurate size. Now that meant coming up with the right length here and the right height for the wings or the solar panels, and it didn't quite match up with the blueprints I found. Those would have actually had it even a little longer, but I came up with this size and kind of compared it to watching the scene in A New Hope, and this is where I landed. And by far the biggest challenge of this MOC was this section here, the connection between the cockpit and the wings or the solar panels. The images and the models and everything you see, that feature is quite distinct. It's got this long sloping section, and really this idea for this technique came to me in the middle of the night. I kind of woke up and had the idea to use hinges on the inside and then wedge plates here and then a couple of the rail pieces here just to kind of connect those. And once I did that, the size and the angle really kind of worked out. It really clicked. I talk about on every one of my MOCs that there's kind of a moment where I'm building and I'm full of a lot of doubt, and then there's a technique I come up with or a section I get built and it just clicks and I really start to feel good about it. And for this one, this section was definitely it. The other big challenge for this MOC was coming up with the right proportions for this back section back here. We've got this big round curved piece that kind of ties into where the connections to the wings happen. And the Lego set had this section much smaller, and it used a smaller piece here, which I originally had in here, but then I tried the bigger one. And so you can kind of see here, I've got this little gap here. So this section actually comes to the middle here, and that kind of ended up being the right proportion for me, using this big section here. And then it was just a matter of reinforcing it with the cockpit and the side connections here, using some tiles on the top here just to add some smoothness to it, but it also gives me opportunities to create a little detail, like with these dark bluish gray tiles. And this section in here, you can see I've got those pieces from the set that use the sticker. I kind of couldn't resist because those are really quite perfect stickers to use in that situation. And then it's a matter of adding some greebles here and on the end, not wanting to overdo it, but trying to come up with some detail. Really, like looking at the model there, you would need some really small pieces to kind of fit in there and do it a little more justice. But I got a pair of engines up here and one of the grill tiles, so I think that turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Take a look at the cockpit section now. The blasters here are a little more pronounced. They stick out a little further on Vader's tie here, so I put an extra piece in there between kind of this headlight piece and the blaster. I use one of those round plates that have the hole in it. That's kind of a new piece. In the same TIE Fighter cockpit, which opens up here, and also the hatch opens on top here. I'll go ahead and pop this off here so we can take a better look at the cockpit. And you can see I have Darth Vader in there. And he does still have his cape on. I used the most recent Darth Vader, the one that came with Darth Vader's transformation, so he's got that cloth cape. But I really wanted to add this feature that you see inside of his cockpit. There's lots of black and red behind him, so I did some red brackets here. It's kind of hard to see, but then just some grill tiles on front of those to kind of give it this black and red look. And we can look at some detail here on the side of the wings. Now I did something a little different for this section. You can see I have tiles here with a 1x tile in the middle, and then the typical TIE Fighter round tile here, but I used 1x round slopes there And I think that kind of, how it overhangs here, the hinges a little bit, I think that kind of gives it a little unique detail. And something else I did is I have two hinges here, but I put one back here. And this kind of helped with the whole flexing of the whole thing so that those wings stay parallel all the way down. And here's a shot at the underside of it. You can see not a lot of detail, not much happening. I used a lot more dark bluish gray here on the bottom just because I had the parts. But there's one little detail here I wanted to show you. So you can see on the underside of the wing here, I put a bracket here with a 2x1 plate. Now what that does is that gives me a little bit of stability, a little resistance against the side panel here, so that these wings, even though they're on hinges, they don't fold in anymore, allowing it to kind of stand up on its own weight. I'm kind of happy how that turned out, and I think that's something I'm going to go back and add to like my TIE bomber, which really can't support itself on its own weight. Now for the wing connections, I use this kind of familiar technique that they started on the First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter, where there's really just some bar ends here, and then on this section, we just have some clips sticking off on here, and then I stuck out a couple of plates with a tile on here just to kind of wedge itself in here to give it a little more stability. Now one thing I really wish I could do is add a little more reinforcement to these bars here, or these plates with the bars. If I could put another layer of plates around it to kind of hold those in a little better, it would really be nice. But just kind of the way the geometry worked out, that once I clip these in, these sections line up right against these plates here. So this is a case of I went over the look of it and trying to get the right geometry and aesthetic as opposed to making it stronger. Alright, that's it for my Darth Vader's TIE Advanced X1 MOC. I'm pretty happy how this one turned out. I'm glad to have this thing in my collection, and it's my own MOC, my own version of it, instead of just the Lego set. I'm always a little more proud of my own builds as opposed to those. But let me know what you think. Leave me a comment down below. Let's have a little discussion about this. I'd appreciate a thumbs up on this video if you liked what you saw. And if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. I got some new builds on the way and you don't want to miss out on those. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back soon.